a time in the future when humans are in the space, in the sky, in the stars. There we go, they're in the space, in the sky, in the stars. Perfect. Worded it beautifully. Did you guys know I write? Hey y'all, I'm Madeline Monahan, but you can call me Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. And I am starting a new little series called My Favorite Things. I was going to call it These Are a Few of My Favorite Things after the song from Sound of Music, and I realized that that's a lot of words, so I just shortened it to My Favorite Things. Rest assured the song is now in my head, so I am humming it in my mind. So today I'm going to be starting with my favorite books, and I've read a lot of books over the years and different ones have sort of come and gone as my favorites, but these are the 5 that have really stuck with me and I still enjoy and will always go back and read. Starting at number 5 and working my way up, I have a book that I actually was not sure I was going to like. The reason why I wasn't sure I was gonna like it was because it's kind of a sci-fi-y horror kind of book, and I'm not really a sci-fi person. I mean, I like sci-fi, but not to read. I like watching sci-fi. I don't necessarily like reading sci-fi. And then on top of all that, horror. I don't like horror movies. I am such a chicken. So I was really surprised when this little gem, Contagion by Bowman. So an SOS is sent out from this mining planet and they send a rescue team out to go save the workers, and when they get there they discover that they're all dead. Or are they? And that's where the horror element comes in, and it's just very well written. Like immediately from the first page you know that something is off and you are in for a wild ride. And it really was a wild ride. I made the mistake of reading this at night because I just could not put it down. I had to keep reading it. I had to know what was gonna happen. And the way that Bowman does her chapters in this, it leaves you wanting more. Like, you cannot put it down. It's so hard. I love this book. I really do. I think about it constantly. I think about going back and reading it all the time. I just love it, and you know, it was such a surprise, and it was such a nice surprise. Major kudos to you, Bowman. You got me to read both sci-fi and horror, and it's one of my top 5 favorite books. Well done, ma'am, well done. So the next book is a little bit difficult to recommend to you guys, but it is still one that I very much enjoy and I go back and read a lot. It is this little gem right here. It's called Sekai kara neko ga kieta nara by Kawamura Genki, also known as If Cats Disappeared from the World. And it is just such a sweet little book. It was the first Japanese book that I was able to read front to back and understand about 85% of it. Like, there's still a little bit in there, but I'm like, I'm not sure how to read this, but for the most part, I knew what the story was and I knew what was going on. So the story of If Cats Disappeared from the World is a 30-year-old mailman is diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and he comes home from the doctor to find someone who looks exactly like him. And it turns out this doppelganger is a devil, not necessarily the devil, but a devil. And so he makes a deal with him. He says, well, you were supposed to die tomorrow, but for everything you want me to take away from the world, I will extend your life by a day. He does, so he's like, okay, we'll take away movies, take away clocks. And then it gets to the point of, well, do you want cats to disappear from the world? And he has a cat, and his cat is like his closest friend because this poor guy has just had like kind of a sad life. And it goes into like his past and just how he got to where he was and about his family, and it is such a bittersweet book. It's written like a man who is detailing his last week. Like, it even says at the beginning, it says, this is my final testament. It flows like someone who is trying to explain to someone the last week of their very bizarre life. So unfortunately there is no English translation for this book, at least not yet. I actually have been trying to translate it just because I love it and I think that it's a book that people should read, but there is no official English translation for Sekai kara neko ga kiyatta nara. There is a movie, and I haven't seen the movie, so I can't tell you if it's an accurate adaptation of the book. If you all are learning Japanese, for my fellow Japanese learners out there, if you ever want a book to read, I highly recommend Sekai kara neko ga kiyatta nara, just because it is such a sweet little book, and I do really love it. So I wish I could recommend it to you guys. Maybe one day when there's an English translation, I will recommend it, because it's so, I love it. So number 3 on my list is I Am the Messenger by Marcus Suzak. I love Marcus Suzak. I love his books. I love his writing style. And I Am the Messenger was one of the most uplifting books I've ever read in my life. It tells a story of a 19-year-old cab driver who kind of is leading a meaningless life. I mean, he just drives people around and that's his days. But one day he receives an ace, like from a deck of cards, in the mail, and it has addresses written on it. And he goes to these addresses, and at each one of these addresses there is somebody who needs help. And so then he helps them, and then he gets another card, and the pattern repeats itself. And it becomes like a mystery as who's sending these cards, but at the same time, it's this kid who's going out and he's doing good for other people. And it is just one of the happiest books I've ever read. Like, you will close this book with a stupid grin on your face. Like, you will be so happy by the end of it. And I recommend it to everybody. For people who have read The Book Thief, I always recommend I Am the Messenger, because it is just one of the most uplifting books I've read in my entire life. So Marcus Suzak coming in strong at number 3. Now number 2 is gonna come as no surprise to many of you people. It's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. I've had this book since I was 12 years old. And I remember my friend recommending this book to me because I didn't really like reading because I have ADHD. It's hard for me to focus. It's hard for me to stay focused on something. And I was really struggling with reading throughout most of my life. My friend said, hey, there are these books, they're, somewhat easy to read. They're called Percy Jackson. You should go check them out. Let me go to the store and let me find this book that my friend was telling me about. So I go to the store, I find the book that my friend was telling me about, and I went home, and 2 days later I was back at the bookstore buying every other book in the series that was out at that point in time. And for those of you who don't know, Percy Jackson is a story of a middle school student who finds out he is a demigod. He is the son of an unnamed, and shall remain unnamed for the sake of spoilers, Greek god, and he has been accused of stealing Zeus's lightning bolts, and so he has to go on this crazy journey to prove his innocence and find the real thief. And the way that Percy Jackson is written, it's written like it's by someone who has ADHD, and it was the easiest book for me to read, but also the hero is just so relatable, because when I was a kid there weren't many books where the characters were like me, where I could relate to them and be like, I have the same issues that you do. Like, I too can't focus. I have to move around and do something. I have to fidget. Like, I can't, like, words jump around and everything. It was just such a relief to finally have a character who I could relate to, have a whole cast of characters that I could relate to, and you can almost imagine being them and going on these adventures. It was just so refreshing. It was such a relief to finally be able to relate to a character, and that is why I like Percy Jackson so much, is that even to this day I still relate to him, because I still struggle with it sometimes. I still have problems with sitting still and focusing and things like that, and it's just really nice that I always have my buddy Percy to help me get through it. And Yeah, I love Percy Jackson for so many reasons, and I thank Rick Riordan for introducing Percy to the world, because he definitely helped with a lot. So thank you, Rick Riordan, for giving me my little friend. Plus the book is just really good, so you know, read the book. And so finally, sitting at number 1 is my favorite book of all time, and no matter how many times I think about it, this is always the book I put at my number 1. I mentioned it earlier. It is The Book Thief by Marcus Suzak, making another appearance on this list. So for those of you who were not forced to read this in school, as I was not forced to read this was a choice reading. The Book Thief is a story about a girl growing up in Nazi Germany who makes it a habit of stealing books from really anywhere. She steals it from a gravesite, she steals them from the library, she steals them from book burnings. She just basically steals books. And the way that the book is told is not by our main character Liesel, it's told from the perspective of Death himself. This is Death, like the Grim Reaper kind of Death, finding her journal and reading it, and he's reading it to us. The Book Thief is definitely one of those bittersweet books. Like, you will be laughing, you will be crying, both tears of joy and sadness. There's just so much in it, and it's got some absolutely incredible scenes in it, like moments that stick with you. I still have one particular scene in my head, and every time I think of The Book Thief, that's what I think of, is this one scene, because it is probably one of the saddest scenes in the book, but also one of the sweetest. Again, I cannot recommend this highly enough. Like, if you have not read it, read it. It is it's so beautiful. So there you are. There are my top 5 favorite books. I highly recommend all of them, even the one that's not in English. They're all just a lot of fun and a good read and incredibly hard to put down. And so if you are looking for something to read while we ride out the last of this Corona stuff, definitely check out one of those. Well, at least one of the 4 ones in English, if you haven't already, to help you along. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you want to see more of what my favorite things are, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit that like button if you so feel like it, of course. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! 世界から猫が消えたなら、この世界はどう変化し、僕の人生はどう変わるのだろうか。世界から僕が消えたなら、この世界は何も変わらずに、いつもと同じような明日を迎えるのだろうか。I don't know. I like it.